Hi, this is Tony Japuntich. I'm continuing along in that series that I started some time back called Shadows. This is Shadows Part 4. It's the Tabernacle. And like in some of the others that were fairly lengthy, I'm doing this one in segments, so this will be the first segment. Kind of repeating some of the stuff I said before, and if you watch my series, you'll see some of the same things you've already seen in this one. That's because things in the Bible are duplicated, and I believe there was a purpose for that, so that it's not just by accident that you see things happen one place, because it's verified in other places, and all of this is prophetic concerning Jesus Christ and the sacrifice he would make for us, and what would happen then, the fact that we can now be with him in heaven. Okay, so prophecy is normally given in words. You'll see that a lot in the Bible. Isaiah chapter 53, Psalms 22, 23, 24. A lot of prophecy concerning the Messiah. Sometimes it's given as events. We had that whole series on the feast. Quite a lengthy series, but you can see the progression in there of where Jesus enters in by way of his sacrifice, and then all that happens after that, all the way to the end of what time as we know it now. The tabernacle is a case in which prophecy is given by the structure of itself, how it is built, as well as what goes on within that structure from the time you enter into the courtyard. So we're going to be looking at that. The first thing I want you to look at is the structure itself. This is the court, and the gate is what we're going to be talking about in this segment. But let's look at the overall thing. Look at the width of this, 75 feet. By 150 feet. The tabernacle itself, this is the courtyard, and the courtyard has white linen. It's about 7.5 feet tall. It has things to hold it in place. Most of the fixtures in this structure and in here are made, in the Bible it calls it brass, is what we call copper. Except for these knobs that are on top of the posts that are placed along here, and on top of those knobs, they're silver. Everything else is brass or copper. If you hear me say brass, you know I actually mean copper. The tabernacle itself is another tent. It's divided into half. We'll go more into that later. There's this Holy of Holies, and then the outer tabernacle. This Holy of Holies, also called the inner tabernacle. Then you have the courtyard, and there's things that take place within the courtyard that we'll be looking at. And then there's the gate. The gate itself is 30 feet. I find it interesting that the gate, the color of the gate, it has colors. It's very colorful. It's red, white, and blue, and purple. And that's the linen there that makes up the gate. Hebrews 8, if you look at that, and I'm going to do that, I'm going to be reading it. I don't read a whole lot on these lessons because it takes up a lot of time. I depend on you to do it, so I won't be reading all the scriptures we go through here. But this is important. Paul writes in Hebrews chapter 8, "Now the things which we have spoken, this is the sum." Here's what it all means. "We have such an high priest who is set on the right hand of the throne of the majesty in the heavens." Now he's talking about Jesus. "A minister of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which the Lord pitched and not man. For every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices, wherefore it is of necessity that this man have somewhat also to offer." What is it he's going to have to offer? Himself. For if he were on earth, he should not be a priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the law. So Jesus is a heavenly priest. He was not of the priestly order here on earth. They were types of him. They were a shadow of him who was to come. When you look at the tabernacle, everything that's done in there has to do with him and what happens to him. And he is both the offering and the priest. Verse 5, who serve unto the example and shadow, that's where we get shadow from, and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. But now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant. What's a covenant to do? A covenant is to bring people together with someone else or with other people. And that's was part of the purpose of the tabernacle, is to bring people together with God. But now, verse 6, but now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is the mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. So all of these, even the law, everything leads up to show what Jesus did for us and all that he's going to do for us. Exodus 27, verses 9 through 19. You can read this on your own, but that's just simply the courtyard in its description. Notice that there's only one gate. Now, when Herod later on rebuilt the temple before Jesus was born, it has more than one gate, okay? But the original description of this thing, it only has one gate. Psalm 104 says, enter his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful unto him and bless his name. I love that. When I was in Israel and I was able to go to the wall, what they call the Wailing Wall, which had surrounded the Herod's temple, they would have a procession the evening of the Sabbath, when the Sabbath was starting, and the procession would come in almost like in a military column, and they would be singing. And that's the idea is there that it's a good thing to enter into the house of the Lord, to come to be with the Lord. I will enter his gates with singing in my heart. I will enter with praise. Jeremiah 7, 1 through 11. I'm not going to read this one, but you can read it, and you can see that Jeremiah in there warns that just coming into the temple, just going to church for us nowadays, doesn't save your soul. People can have all kinds of reasons to go to church, but that's not the purpose. And Jesus actually quotes part of Jeremiah in Matthew 21 or 21:13 when he's casting out the money lenders, because they were not there for the right reasons. And so you have to come with the right reasons. Matthew chapter 7, verse 7, or chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. I'm going to read this one. This is Jesus speaking. Enter ye in at the strait gate. What is strait gate? That means narrow. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Folks, people are hunting for all kinds of ways to enter into the presence of God. But there is only one way, and that way is through Jesus Christ. The Bible's clear on this. He was the way which the Lord has made. Let's look again at Luke chapter 13, verses 24 and 25. Jesus speaking, strive to enter in at the strait gate. That's the narrow gate, the gate of Jesus. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. When once the master of the house is risen up and hath shut to the door, and ye begin to stand without and to knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open unto us. He shall answer and say unto you, I know you not whence ye are. I don't know who you are. There's going to come a time when it's going to close. There's going to come a time when Jesus calls his children home, and all those who aren't written in the life's book of Lamb are going to be left out. I mean, that's going to happen, and it's going to be too late then. Hebrews 13, again in Hebrews, I'm going to read this one, verses 12 through 15. Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people. What does sanctify mean? Make them whole. Make them holy. Sanctify the people with his own blood. Suffered without the gate. Suffered without the gate. Suffered outside of the gate. He wasn't able to enter into the temple to die there. That whole temple was set up to show the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And he, of course, was killed outside of the gate because he was considered to be a criminal. I mean, they weren't going to take him in there and kill him. Mind you, and I probably should have said this earlier, that in there, everything in there is done by proxy. The sacrifice is a proxy or a substitute for the person who's coming there to be in the presence of the Lord and to praise the Lord and to worship the Lord. So it's all done by proxy. The priests are a proxy for Jesus. They're a substitute for Jesus. He would someday come and offer himself up. Beginning to read again. Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered outside or without the gate. Let us go therefore unto him without the camp, or outside of the camp. What does that mean? That means that they're no longer bound by the law. All these things are in the past now. They're all shadows, and they've already come. Jesus came. And so they no longer have to go to the temple. They can gather together outside of the gate, bearing his reproach. And so they would be looked upon badly, but it's his reproach, and therefore it's a good thing for us if we're reproached for him. Not being reproached for doing bad things ourselves, but to be reproached for Jesus Christ. And so they set their minds and their hearts to that. We're no longer of the past. And so if we're not allowed in the temple, it doesn't matter. Because Jesus came. He's the fulfillment of all those Old Testament scriptures concerning the coming of the Messiah and his sacrifice and his death and resurrection. For here, talking about on earth, we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. Our city isn't Jerusalem that we're looking for. It's the new Jerusalem that will come down from heaven. That city made by the hands of God. That city that Jesus has prepared for us. That's the city we're looking for now. It's not Jerusalem, and it's not the temple here on this earth, but it's that heavenly temple, that presence of God that we're looking forward to. By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually. That is the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. That's the sacrifice that we have to offer today. We no longer do sacrifices of animals. All of that was in substitution for Jesus. Jesus has come. I know I've explained this on a previous video, but if you missed that, and even if you didn't, it'd be good to hear it again. What is it talking about when Paul talks about a shadow? Well, put it this way: if you're nice, if you're all relaxed and you're laying on your blanket or your towel at the beach, and you think that you're all alone, and all of a sudden you see a shadow. What does that shadow mean? That shadow means that someone is coming. Someone is almost there. You may not see them yet, but the shadow lets you know that it's coming, or that person is coming. And so the shadow is not the substance of it. That shadow is not a real living person, but that shadow lets you know that there is a person who is there, who is coming. And so all these things in the Old Testament were not the reality. They were simply the shadow to let you know that Jesus, the Messiah, is coming, and he has come. Our next lesson, we're not going to take up here today, but our next lesson is going to be on the brazen altar, and that's after you come in through the gate. I want to point out again that when you come into the gate, you had to have your offerings ready. In other words, you purchased your offerings, or you brought your offerings from outside. And that's the reason Jesus was angry, was because they were using this in here as a way to make money. No. That's all outside. You didn't do that inside God's house, and the courtyard is part of God's house. Now, the people, the mass of people, were never allowed to go in here. We're going to see this later on. They stood out here. They offered up their sacrifices, and the priest did that for them. They didn't do it themselves. Everything is done by way of substitution, by proxy. And they're just onlookers. They never go in here. They never partake in here. And of course, they never go in here. Only the high priest ever goes in there, and only one time a year. We'll see all this later on in the series. I hope that you've gotten something out of this. This is a fairly simple lesson. This is the very beginning, though. There's several things on the outside before you get into the tabernacle itself that take place that you need to understand and know why it is and see it in the life of Jesus. So stick with it. Bear with me on this. I think you'll get something out of it. Like I say, some of it is a review that if you've been listening, you've heard before, but it's not all a review. And here again, it puts it together in just another different way to show that the Bible is the real living Word of God, that it's the truth. And it's by no accident that we worship Jesus Christ. It's by no accident. It was planned out by God. And if you've been following the series by now, you ought to understand that and know that it's the real deal, it's the real thing, and that God is real. Thank you for being here. Tune in again. God bless you.